So we are fortunate enough as researchers to get that insight directly from the mouth that feeds it, that kind of a.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome back all of our listeners to another episode of the Excel Minds podcast. And again, we're here with Amanda Jensen, who has been conducting this workshop episode for us, or this workshop series for us, Design with, Not At. So in the previous part, we discussed co-design as a methodology, or in general, how that works, what that looks like on a more practical level, and also the benefits of co-designing and involving your various stakeholders, not only the users, but also your teammates, whether that's in the engineering or C-suite or wherever they may be, but involving them in the whole process, having that buy-in, and that will just get them more invested in what you're doing and what you're producing. So in this part, if I remember correctly, Amanda, you might have to correct me, it's kind of interweaving with part one, but this is more around user obsession, so user obsessed product design. So what do you mean by that? And also hello again.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I think this is a bit of a, transcendence or floater, certainly on a lot of, we started
Mm,
talking about this already. It's just, I get so excited,
mm,
in, part one. But, for me, I think user obsession, you hear this term a little bit more like in product development or product design per se. And it's this idea where, the user is the thing that's propelling your choices and your positionality. When you're a user obsessed organization, you're
mm,
letting research be that, signpost, that guiding light into how you developed your product. Because ultimately, and this should be the case, it's kind of like the customer's always right-ish.
mhm.
Like it's like a news spin. It's like the tech girly positioning, but I didn't come up with user obsession, by the way. But this idea where if you are on the ground in the remote world, wherever it may be, and you're talking to users in early stage research, all the
Mm,
way through to the end gamut where we're launching this baby into market and it's a beautiful, glorious day. You have done so much labor with your people. You've built buy-in, you've built trust in your product and your organization. You've also built like a narrative, a storyline, a use case, right?
mm,
All of that is informing how you make that market product sing, right?
mm,
And like, again, we should only be coming from a positionality of sure, secondary research to develop out, well, how might we use this learning tool in a classroom? Or how
mm,
might HR benefit from this, that, or the other? You know,
mm.
and ultimately for me, we find those use cases from the people who are doing the thing. And that's where the obsession begins,
Yeah.
right? So when you're early in your process, like that
Mm,
0 to 1 or even beyond that, really leaning into user as king, queen, they, them, like whatever it may be,
mm,
they're the ones who are that authority on the thing because they are truly the individual that would be eventually using your product.
mm,
So we are fortunate enough as researchers to get that insight directly from the mouth that feeds it, that kind of a thing. Terrible
No.
example, but this idea where it is derived from the initial end point, that
Mm.
person.
Yeah. No, no, that's true. That's true. And like how, so we probably ties in a bit to what we discussed last time. But
Mhm.
how can you, because obviously as researchers, as designers, we need to develop this user obsession. We need to be outward facing, not inward facing. How can you kind of advocate that within your team, within the organization? Because not everybody has that mentality. They they obviously focus on the business goals,
Mhm.
ROI, all of this. So how can you develop this? I don't know. I can't think of the right word. Like foster this user obsession mentality and atmosphere within your team.
100%. I think a lot of it has to do with like building that bridge or building that road for your cross-functional members to hop into your protocols, pop
Mm,
in user interview meetings.
mm,
You know, it's one thing for me to talk at you and to share out. It's another where you
mm.
saw that person
Yeah.
truly struggling to find what we thought was an easy, happy path in a
Yeah.
quick journey, or when we realized, oh my gosh, we had never thought about this use case, and you were right there with me in that
Mm,
call, you know,
yeah.
or this product feature we had completely hadn't considered because we didn't know there was a need. How do we find the need? Because we're user obsessed, because we're
Mm,
talking as people early
yeah.
and often. So I think that there's a bit of that rapport building where we're continuing that bridge, we're building people in, but there's also like, I mean, wonderfully, there's tons of groovy data out there. I mean, a quick
Mm,
Google will take you to any credible, fantastical source like Forbes that has amazing ROI data on the impact of user research
yeah.
often and what it does in saving
Mm,
on your engineers or your development costs or this, that, and the other,
yes.
because you're not walking into a room and slapping your hands around trying to find the light switch. You know, you
Yeah.
could cut your arm, you could break an ankle, like all
Yeah.
that could happen, right?
It's
Because
a
you
good
don't know what's in
analogy.
that room
Yeah.
and what have you, because
Mm,
you didn't talk to the people who could have
yeah.
told you what's in that room, who could have
Yeah.
said, actually, there's this hole here, or there's a pothole, or there's a sharp
Mm,
lamp, and it's, you know, glasses everywhere. You know,
yeah.
like they're our insider
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And so they give us that opening into their world
Mm,
and into their purview. And I think that that's like a no-brainer.
yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
leveraging that. So,
Yeah, no, no, it's I like that analogy as well. One analogy I like to use as well is when you're driving at night with obviously a car or a motorbike, whatever you like to drive,
oh,
and
dark
you can have your
things.
yeah, exactly, um, and you can have your normal like beams on, like so your
Yeah.
normal lights. You
Yeah.
can see like to a certain distance, and it gives you an
Yeah.
idea of what's coming. But obviously, when
Mhm.
you're on a country road, there's no street lights or street lamps, there's no cars around. What do?
Mhm.
You put on your full beam. I don't know in American what if
Oh
it's the
yeah.
same.
Your high
You put your
beams.
full beam.
Absolutely.
Oh, there we go. And that gives you like full distance and you can see what's coming, but like way ahead advance. And for me,
100%.
that's, I find that that analogy helps me explain that to people who don't really understand
Love that.
user experience. Or when I'm in my first one-on-ones with a team, a new team, I like to go for that analogy because, yeah, like we are like various people within the organization have touch points with users or do
Mhm.
know certain things about users just because they've worked in that field for such a long time. So they do have some
Mhm.
ideas about how people behave, how people use the product, etc. And that gives you some form of idea and knowledge. And so it gives you somewhere to drive, like somewhere to go, but
Yeah.
you can't see that far ahead. You can't see that drop off or that like hard left turn that that is
Yes.
coming. That the user research gives you that long term kind of or
Mhm.
long vision, long distance vision. So you
Yeah.
know, okay, how can we adapt this? We know that this is coming, or we know this
Mhm.
is how our users are behaving. So how can we adapt and adjust? So yeah,
Right. Love that.
two analogies and both give the same idea, I hope. That's
Yeah.
cool, that's cool. Kind of going back to kind of what we were discussing before about kind of obviously this buy-in and
Mhm.
that this obviously the business goals that the company has. You said something about it's better than me talking at them like in a presentation or just I don't know, providing the insights in an all hands. What if there are some, because I've had it as well, that some people are just so busy or they're so high up in the organization, they have no time for these little interviews with users. So
Yeah.
if you find yourself in that position where you've invited them, they're not coming, and you're
Mhm.
trying to develop this user obsession, this user focused obsession in your design or your research process, and your only opportunity is to presented in all hands, or even maybe there's another way. How can you avoid that just talking at them getting bored, or them missing the point completely and just focusing on the how's this going to make me money? How can you like
Right.
navigate that situation?
So, yes, I love this question. So, oftentimes I don't invite like big players into my
Okay.
interviews, typically at the team level. And this
Hmm.
is strategic because of that very thing. I want to respect their time
Mm.
and all of their zhuzhing and all of the things that have to be done. But I enter that share out very strategically. So all those decision
Mm.
makers, those individuals, my managers, direct reports, they get invited to that. If for
Mm.
some of them, if they didn't attend or weren't able to in the interviews. And
Mm.
I am very calculated. Like I said, I use Miro. Please sponsor me. And and
I'll
I
tag
make
them in this post, don't worry.
yes, please. I make really bite-sized, very visual, like stickies on the actual screens of that wireframe and
Mm.
like the user findings right on it. And it's very bite-sized. It's very easy to understand. It's visually dynamic. It's more interesting than a tons of text on a
Mm.
slide. And I
Yeah.
typically have anywhere from 7 to about 12 max
Okay.
slides. And my share outs are like 20 minutes or
Okay.
less.
Yeah.
And so what that does is, it's visual. It's not boring to look at, hopefully. It's
Yeah.
very clear. It tells you exactly where those
Yeah.
instances were happening. And then at my end of my share out, I always have some of those real zinger, fabulous user quotes that we always
Yeah.
love. Also my recommendations and, thanking the team for all of their,
Mm.
cross-functional
Yeah.
support. What's also interesting is like, I mean, I'm a bit of a show pony. I like to, the theater, be like a Moira Rose of UXR. And so I try to just make them fun,
Yeah.
like go through that
Yeah.
share out, regardless of the stakeholders on that call, like very
Mm.
engaging and
Yeah.
we're zapping, we're having some humor. We add in a little side nugget that we might not see on the screen, but it was like a funny moment or
Mm.
an interesting insight, or I shout out one of my team members who was like teleprompting me a really dope question in the interview, and then we got this beautiful tidbit. So it's kind of like um, you know, it's better to show and not tell.
Yeah.
And so like I like to be very visual, not have all my cards out there, but
Mm.
show a little bit more or share a little bit that's not on screen. So it's just like, oh my gosh, there's these Easter eggs or there's this new insight that I didn't even know. And just make it really conversational and engaging
Yeah.
and leaving the door open for like commentary, chit chats, bebop, off
Mm.
mute, right in the middle of my share out. Like I'm fine to have a chat.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I think those points are really valid about keeping it short, to making it visual and also fun as well. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge thing because then you avoid that just talking at them very monotone, very just,
Yeah.
yeah, because people are going to fall asleep. Like it is, even if it's something that is going to be beneficial and it's something that's super important, you
Right.
need to give it that importance by making it fun, making it
Yeah.
like, look, guys, this is really high level stuff. This is really important. You need,
Yeah.
and one thing I've actually done in the past is, do you know Kahoot? Like this is not a call for sponsorship, by the way, but do you know
Yeah, I
Kahoot?
think I'm familiar. Yeah.
Like you can create quizzes. It's like
Yes.
a quiz thing. Yeah, there are other quiz websites out there, but Kahoot is the one I use. Anyway, so I like to like before I do the presentation. I've not done it like every single time, but a few times I've done it. Is kind of announce, oh, before we go through this, there is going to be a quiz at the end. So make sure you're paying
Oh,
attention. Then I kind of make it fun and even like hide in like a few pictures as well. So like they need to kind of look for the this
we
little
got
hidden thing.
fun.
So it makes them look and kind of engage as well. And then
Right.
at the end, we do this quiz, and that means they're going to pay attention because there's always a little prize
Yeah.
at the end. So it
That's
kind of just
wonderful.
increases that engagement or potential engagement
True.
in the research. So that's just something that works with me. Obviously,
Yeah.
probably you've got better ideas. I think you're more of the
No, I
showman
love
than I
that.
am. So
I want to swap that one. Just swipe it. But yeah, anytime I can get a meme or a GIF or an emoji in there,
yeah,
I'm gonna do it. So I
absolutely.
hear
Yeah, I love
ya.
memes. Yeah, I'm meme addicted. So. Cool, cool, excellent. So I think it's probably a good time to wrap up this part. Obviously, it's a bit shorter than done the last
Right.
parts, but it kind of tied in well, and I think it rounded up kind of the
Yeah.
idea, the concept that you were going through. So thank you.
Yeah.
And for what I remember and what you told me, that in part three, I'll repeat that. And from what I remember, in part three, I think we're going to go through some more practical examples or some experiences that you would like to share, just so people can kind of visualize
Yeah.
or mentally visualize this process and how it works and how it was successful in your case. So I look
Mhm.
forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you. Can't wait.
Looking forward to it.